All right, so how do you go about modeling something like a framing plan? Do you create separate SketchUp documents for your detailed drawings? Um, okay, so if I go back into our residential new construction, won't save those. So what I do is, well, you've got. Let me just make sure I'm reading this question. So how do you go about modeling something like a framing plan? Do you create separate SketchUp documents for your detailed drawings? Okay, so I do not create separate SketchUp documents for my detailed drawings, although you could. It wouldn't hurt anything. I just personally like to have like one project. Let's look at our garage project. Let me go to Open and Garage. This one's just a little bit lighter weight, so we can kind of break this down. All right, so you've got Design Mode and you've got Draft Mode. So when I click on Draft Mode, this switches to a different set of layers. You can see we've got all of our draft layers, and so whatever I draw in here, it's fine. It's not going to disrupt anything. I can just kind of work in here, and then I can go right back into Design. And when I'm in Design Mode, that's when all of my draft layers are turned off. And so the way that the ConDoc tools was created with the Design and Draft Mode, the intent is that you're able to bury everything in one project, which it's convenient to not have to open another project. But it would not hurt anything if you would prefer to have all of your 2D documents or 2D details in one file and keep all of your 3D modeling in another. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now, when it comes to a framing plan, so I often don't do these, but what I would do, so this is like, let's say you wanted like roof framing. All right, so you've got this group that's your roof, and it's on the layer Design Roof. Double click in, hide the rest of the model just so we can see. So there's, okay, and then everything's on layer 0. All right, so I've been back and forth on this a little bit lately, but what I would do is I would draw a framing member like I would say 1.5 comma what's like 11.5, like a 2 by 12, right? Something like that. All right, and then I would just pull this up, and then I'm going to make this into a component. We'll call this 2 by 12, and then I'm going to rotate it by 90 and rotate it this way. I could have been a little more clever with the way I built that, and move this over here. All right, so let's say that here's our framing, and then I might select this and do a rotation here and do like kind of an accurate rotation so it's right on line, and then I would use this and pull this out and like that. All right, so let's just say that's our framing, whatever, it doesn't matter. All right, so then I'm gonna make a copy of this, and what would the framing be like? I don't know, like maybe 2 feet for roof. I'm really bad with some of these details, but we'll say we'll do that like 10 times, like that. And actually 11 times is better. All right, and so this last one, let me just kind of fudge this. We'll do this. All right, so now all these pieces here, I'm going to select all of these guys, and we're going to put them in a group. And this group is going to be our structure. All right, so I'm going to go to Design, Structure. All right, now there's kind of a debate that goes on, and I should have a more definitive answer, but there's kind of 2 ways I've done it. And the good thing is that either way works, but I should pick one and just explain it that way. And I think this is it. I always go structure. So structure is kind of anything that like holds the building up. And that could also be like 2x4s in your walls. I would put those on the structure layer. It's all the framing, any posts and beams, and everything that goes into the actual structure of the building goes in a group and goes on the layer structure. You would further break this down into like levels and all that using the ConDoc system just the same. Now this guy structure. I think the main question is. It belongs on structure, but the question is whether structure belongs on the outside of the roof or if it belongs on the inside of the roof. So technically, you could put this structure container inside of your roof. But I like to do it the exact same way every time for every one of my design layers. So if it makes more sense for you to kind of break it down and go into the roof and then put your structure, so you've got roof, structure, walls, structure, floor, structure, that's okay. That'll work. It'll work just fine. For our purposes here, I'm going to leave this on the outside as, like you've got walls, you've got roof, and you've got structure. Now, in order to make a framing plan for this guy needs to have, this particular framing member needs to have a 3D object and a 2D graphic. So I would double click into here. This guy becomes a group, and that group goes on the layer called 3D object. Now what I need to do is draft a 2D graphic, and to do that I'd probably start over here at the end, and I would go with my line tool and draw a straight line along here like that. All right, and then I'm going to select that line, and I'm going to use a plugin on Draw Dashed Lines. This plugin is available at smustard.com. So let me just show you that one. I'll go to smustard.com, and these guys make a ton of really useful plugins. You could search for dashed and probably find dashed lines. They want 20 bucks for this. It's worth every penny of it. So check out smustard dashed lines. And I'm going to set my units, or you can choose a line type or a dash pattern as for this framing member, it'd be like long dash, short dash, and yeah, let's call it 6 inches and choose OK. All right, so now you can see here's my line. Now this guy needs to be a group, and inside of that group, there we go. So that's the 2D graphic that represents that 3D object, right? So if you're going to have a 3D object, you got to have a 2D graphic. So what happens is when you run the plan generator, you create a roof plan. You could then go back in and say on the light line, on the light scene, you want your structure to be on, and then it would just show up as this 2D graphic. So that's kind of the long and the short of that. That goes with anything. So framing plan, floor framing, roof framing, you could set it up in this way, and that would work well. So